Well, certainly this weekend, not only have we got at least some nice weather, but there's going to be a lot of very happy researchers and scientists out there, at least those who are left. We have finally at last rejoined the Horizon program, a very good set of programs which has allowed the UK science industry, combined with the EU, of course, to do a lot of very good and cool stuff over the years. But of course, because of Brexit, one of the many things that they said, oh, don't worry, our place in Horizon is going to be fine. No, that's not going to happen. But then, of course, we had the little spat between us and the EU over Northern Ireland and what that was going to be and whatever was going to happen between that. And of course, what happened? What were the consequences of that? Well, if you were a researcher and you were part of one of these EU Horizon programs, you were left with two options. Either A, you abandon your years worth sometimes of research, you just walk away from it. And to be honest, if you're going to ask someone to walk away from years of research that they've been doing without even finishing it, or maybe the end is in sight, that's a very hard thing for people to ask. Or you're going to do what a lot of the other top scientists were doing when they were in that position. They left the UK permanently to go to those places that were still in the Horizon program so that they could continue with their research. And even though that we have finally now rejoined the Horizon program, this has let a lot of scientists with a very mixture of, well, relief, but also incredible anger at the way that this was done, because this has done a lot of damage to the UK science industry and research. And remember, one of the things that Boris Johnson promised, Liz Truss promised, even Rishi Sunak promised, that, oh, we were going to be this amazing science superpower. Don't worry that we're not in Horizon. We'll replace it. Yeah, didn't replace any of the funds. And of course, their infamous, what was it? Nobel Prize lure didn't even attract any Nobel Prize winners. So let's go over this mixture of relief, but also extreme anger that a lot of scientists are now responding to in the wake of this. But before we do get into that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and an organization link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So over we go to The Guardian to have a look at what they were saying about this. So, UK's years out of EU Horizon program did untold damage, say scientists. Britain may have rescued its scientific Britain may have rescued its scientific fortunes with a very last-minute decision to rejoin the EU's Horizon research program. But the move should not be treated as a cause of jubilation, scientists have warned. The sluggish pace at which the agreement was reached had been all too severe an impact on UK research for widespread escalation, say many of the British researchers, who believe that the science in this country has suffered now a major blow after being locked out of the £82 billion programme for almost 3 years since Brexit. Putting it right has taken far too long, they argue. Since 2020, the UK government has been negotiating to try and rejoin Horizon after the membership was blocked because of the protracted dispute over the Northern Ireland trading rules. Last week, the final announcement that ministers had decided to go ahead with rejoining Horizon was greeted with joy and relief by many senior scientists. And let's also put something else in here. This has obviously been opposed by many Brexiteers. You will see a lot of Brexiteers that have written in response to this saying that, oh, this is a nightmare, this is bad, we don't want to do this. Why? Because when you look at all the other programs that we could join, this is the UK and the Europe working together. And the thing is, the Brexiteers have spun this narrative for years leading up to Brexit and since Brexit that we as Britain cannot work with the EU, that we are just too different, that we don't work well together, that sending money to Europe is a complete waste of time when we could, quote, spend it here. Well, we've had that opportunity to spend the money here, and they have not done that. But now we're back in, and of course, This opens up the door for maybe other programs that we could rejoin. Maybe Erasmus. Who knows? Certainly not under this government, but the potential now is there for future governments. And of course, they don't like that because they don't want people realize that actually us working with the EU, as being in these EU programs was massively beneficial to the UK, which of course starts that whole line of questioning. Well, actually, if this was really beneficial, why did we leave in the first place? So they're desperate not for people to start asking that question. Although, to be honest, people have already started asking that. But anyway, back to it. But some of their colleagues have long since warned that being locked out of Horizon for too long has now done irreversible damage to UK science. This was at a time when Britain could have taken leading roles in major programs on climate change, AI, and new medicines. There is little reason for celebration for something that should have happened years ago, said Professor Bart de Stupa, a group leader of the UK Dementia Research Institute at the University College London. He said, for the past few years, we have faced a complete uncertainty about what is happening in key research area. And Britain used to dominate the Horizon program, and it will take a long time to get back to such a position. This point was reiterated by the Professor Sir John Hardy, a neuroscientist at the same institute, saying that our absence from Horizon for the past 3 years has had a number of detrimental effects that have been made the UK now less attractive as a place to do science. We have not been part of the great science that Horizon funds, and we have now lost trust of our European colleagues. And we will leave Horizon. Will we leave Horizon again in the future? They might ask. Many scientists have just simply left the UK, and post Brexit, moving between the UK and labs in the EU has now become a slow, costly, and bureaucratic nightmare. All of the things being equal, why would people want to do that? And exactly, raises a fair point. We might be back in this program, but it's still a absolute cumbersome, burdensome program to move back and forth between labs. Unless we get, freedom of movement back, that's not going to be restored. Other scientists, of course, were far more cautious, however, saying, I don't know what took so long, but this news will make it now much easier for us who have spent time trying to recruit the best scientists from around the world to get them to come to Britain. Professor Matthew Freeman, head of the Duncan School of Pathology at the University of Oxford. Professor Matthew Rees, an almost Erasmus professor of cosmology and astrophysics at Cambridge University, also added, the decision to rejoin Horizon now represented a rare level of consciousness across the scientific community in the UK and on mainland Europe. However, he said, we have all been frustrated by the unquestionable delay in reaching this agreement. And this has been very much so because of Brexiteers. They've been trying to really fight and push back against this. But doing this gains, like I say, it gains us access to a lot of research. And if you want to be a science superpower, then guess what? You have to spend the money. But here's the thing. Sunak, the Tories, did not want to spend the money in doing these things. They'll talk a big game about creating Cambridge as the current situation of being a massive science city that it will become. Of course, never really happened. To the other cities that were proclaimed that they were going to be the new science cities of the UK, never really happened. Not only that, look at the chip manufacturing process. Barely a drop in the ocean compared to what Japan is spending on them, or even Europe building semiconductors. We're doing nothing in this, and yet we have just potentially sold one of our biggest chip producers, ARM, to a US company, and they have left the UK stock market to go and list on the New York Stock Exchange. Not a word about that, of course, from the Tories, but of course they don't really care. So overall, good news. And of course, it does open the future to potentially rejoining other programs in the future. And of course, we've always said we would eventually rejoin the EU bit by bit because it makes no sense for us to be out of it. But as always, like I say, Good news for scientists. Of course, a lot are incredibly frustrated, and of course, many are asking the question: if you did join a research team or with the UK scientists, well, what happens if there's another dispute? Do you lose that again? Does the UK get kicked out of Horizon again for doing something like trying to leave the European Court of Human Rights? I don't know, but it probably would happen if that was the case. So, there's a lot of happy people, but a lot of angry and frustrated people, I should say, far, far more over this decision. But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.